So it happened a year to the date, and I was in the bathroom, the door was locked, and I'd hit my head after suffering from a collapse or a seizure that I didn't know of at the time. My head ended up in a very small space, and I'd injured my ankle and my knee, and Joe was asleep, the door was locked, and I was trying to call out to him to let him know that I'd hurt myself. I didn't realise I had my phone on me at the time as well, and didn't think to try and call anyone. I was so confused at the time. And eventually Jay heard me and came into the living room, but he felt really confused, really dizzy, as if he wanted to faint, and I told him to sit down, otherwise we would have had two of us that had collapsed, and asked him to call the ambulance and to call my mum to let them know to come over. We didn't really know what was wrong at the time. The day before, we'd had a lovely day at the Ritz for lunch for our wedding, and ambulance came probably within the hour. Mum and Dad came, and they managed to get me up, and they thought I'd broken my spine. As soon as I got up, I collapsed again, and then they took us to the ambulance, and we were taken to a local hospital for most of the day until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They didn't realise what was wrong all of that day, and I was discharged in the afternoon. They had no reason to suspect carbon monoxide poisoning. They thought it might have been food poisoning from the day before. And then the next day, similar situation where I tried to go to the bathroom and I ended up crawling on the floor because I couldn't walk. I was too dizzy to walk, and ended up lying on the sofa phoning my mum, telling her something's really wrong and I don't know what it is. So she told me to ring 111 or 999, and she phoned Jay to say Jilna's in the other room, she's almost passed out, go and see if she's okay. He ran straight to the bathroom and threw up, and then I threw up, and we didn't really know what was happening at the time. And in my head I thought if I eat something, if I take some paracetamol, I might feel better, but neither of us had any energy to do that at all. So then I phoned 111. I have no idea where I got the strength from on that day, and they called out for an ambulance only because I had collapsed the day before, and that was kind of my blessing in disguise, even though it was a traumatic experience the day before. And then the ambulance was here within 10-15 minutes, and one of the paramedics looked at Jay and looked at me, and something clicked inside him that neither of us understood at the time. And he said, "Where's your boiler?" He switched off our boiler, he opened up all the windows, and he said, "I think it's carbon monoxide poisoning," and neither of us could really understand what was going on. And then Mum and Dad came to see how we were, and we were just kind of passed out on these sofas. They called a specialist paramedic team who had a meter that kind of started beeping for carbon monoxide, and it shot through the roof as soon as they got up the stairs, and evacuated us immediately, dragged downstairs, no time for a stretcher, and put on to O2 straight away, and blue lighted to East London to a specialist facility for oxygen treatment.
On the first day when Jilna called out to me, when I got out of bed, my neck was hurting so much, so was my head, and I felt so dizzy. And when I did, natural thing was to call an ambulance because she'd collapsed, and I was really struggling to kind of get my words out. So when they're asking simple questions like, "What's Jilna's name? Where do you live?" I was really struggling to almost having like a mind freeze. Eventually I did get it out, but I just felt so weak. Whilst Jilna was in hospital, obviously we were away from the flat, so we felt a lot better. And luckily in the evening we was just resting at family, so we were once again very lucky to be out of the flat. But on the second day when Jilna called out to me, it's very difficult to describe how much pain it was to both in my head, my neck, the strength that just sapped away. And it's almost like you don't understand why. You can imagine maybe it's a severe bout of food poisoning, or you've picked up a virus, some sort of virus, but you would never in your wildest dreams think it was something as serious as this. I remember even when Jilna and myself were unwell, I was trying to find out more about what carbon monoxide is, how does it affect you, and I think that a campaign such that Project Shout are doing will really help bring awareness to not just friends and family, but to kind of the wider public. And hopefully, if people do suspect something's not right, that they do have a carbon monoxide alarm, they do test it, and they can find out quicker than we did that they need to get treated.
For us, when we were first kind of finding out about carbon monoxide, what happened to us, we tried to, using social media and things like that, try to say, get yourself alarm, etc. And I think with Project Shout, not only are they experienced in, different stories of real people who have suffered from this, but there is also a wider platform of people that we can spread awareness to, which I think individually we wouldn't be able to do ourselves. And, the fact that they spend so much time talking to people, getting to know the real story and understanding the simple measure of getting an alarm. I think it's so important for people to kind of know, which I don't think we would have been able to do ourselves. Because initially people kept saying we had food poisoning because the symptoms were so similar, and you don't actually realise what it could be. And I think knowing the symptoms and being aware of what kind of things in your house can emit carbon monoxide, and actually not even in your house because it wasn't in our flat where it happened, so just to be equipped and aware that it doesn't necessarily need to be your place for you to be affected, whether it's kind of smaller doses or, as we had, kind of large amounts. Please get yourself an alarm and test it. Please make sure it works. We saw something on TV that had kind of dummy alarms and fake alarms, and just make sure that you're regularly changing the batteries or checking that it works, and knowing the symptoms and making sure it's put into the right place as well, because the gas tends to hover and therefore it's not really appropriate to have it on the ceiling, so most people keep it near their boiler or on a shelf, etc. And we have two now, just to be kind of extra safe where we are. So get yourself an alarm, know the facts, read up on it, and learn from our story, because we learned the hard way.